everybody, good morning, evening, night, whatever. It is me, Bryan Drake, and a happy board game breakfast to you. I am your guest host for today, filling in for the illustrious Tom Vassell as we take a look at the best variety show all about board games on the planet. Hands down, objectively. I mean, that's just, there's no argument for that. But we're going to be having a great show today. Lots of fantastic contributors. There will be some magic involved, you know that, as well as a special guest, aka Karla, the brains of our operation, who will be doing a little bit of a run-in not only on the Karla Thinks section or Bryan Thinks section, but also in the Magic section. So we'll get a little bit of that coming up, as well as you're going to find out what's coming from the Dice Tower. But this week has been sponsored, Board and Breakfast is brought to you by Pandasaurus Games and Tammany Hall, a game about backstabbing and votes and just a wonderful little area, it's not little, but a wonderful area control game all about backstabbing and getting votes and controlling areas of New York, a la Gangs of New York, really. Vote for Tammany. But anyway, we're also running a contest this week. If you would like to win, we have 3 copies of Tammany Hall. If you'd like to win a copy of Tammany Hall, email us at contest@dicetower.com. In the subject line, put vote. Vote for Tammany. That about wraps us up for the intro. Let's get on to some breakfast. So this is the part of Board Game Breakfast where I normally come in here and do a card trick, do an illusion of some sort, follow needles, and relate it to things around, because that's what we do, we're illusionists. But today, we have a special guest, the brains of the operation. You know her as Karla. She is literally the brains of what we do. She makes all the strings work in our show.
I'm not going to argue with this.
It's true. We have a 2-person show that really looks like a 1-person show in a lot of routines because
I'm the puppet master.
This is true. I mean, that's kind of like marriage anyway. But here's the deal.
That's not true.
It's not true, but it does make sense for me just to listen a lot more than talk. But anyway, today Karla is gonna do the illusion for us, because this has been a tumultuous year for all of us, of course. But you'll notice Karla's tattoo here. This is a butterfly. Butterflies are important because back in March, April, long story. You'll hear the story in another video we do sometime. This happened. Karla had to remove half of her. She didn't remove it. I mean, she didn't just like. Half her thyroid had to be removed due to thyroid cancer, and this was during the time where she had to go in the hospital by herself, couldn't visit, all that sort of stuff.
No fun.
Couldn't go in with her, no fun. So in that notion, we thought we would take an idea. Basically, all of us can do this. Instead of looking at the negative around us, think of all the positive things that are going on around you. Count your blessings, as it were, and something can happen. Something quite beautiful can happen, just like this, actually. Something beautiful just like that can happen. So hopefully this brightened your day a little bit. Hopefully you can think of all the wonderful things that are going on in your life, even if there are some negative things. And hopefully we just had a little bit of fun with you. So we will be back for the thoughts section where Bryan and Karla think her thoughts in just a little bit.
It's like I'm the teller to your pen.
Truth.
Hello, my name's Dan, this is Cora, and we're here today to talk to you about Cora Quest. Oh, she did it the first take as well. I should have kept the first take. I knew I should have kept the... Cora Quest. Yeah, Cora Quest. So, and this is our cooperative dungeon crawling game for families that we've been designing as part of our homeschooling for the COVID situation.
Yes.
And you've been doing all sorts of subjects within this design process. So what have you been doing?
I've been doing art, maths, English, and computing.
Art, maths, English, and computing. And in the previous segments, we've already discussed the other ones. So today we're going to talk about the computing and also about the design, really. Because what did you do on the computer?
I made tiles.
Yeah.
And you made some tiles too.
We both made tiles. We made dungeon tiles for...
because you kind of need that for a dungeon crawl.
You do need that for a dungeon crawler, yeah, unless you're really going out the box. So, in order to do this, I bought this program called Dungeon Draft, and it was quite cheap, about $20. Now, I think normally it's used for people who are playing role-playing games and things like that. But we found it incredibly easy to use, didn't we? What did you think of Dungeon Draft?
It was quite nice because you had all the items already there and you could choose the shape of the rooms and have all the doors and the...
Yeah. And did you find it complicated?
No.
And it just felt easy to pick up, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really...
After making about one tile, you knew what to do.
Yeah, exactly. And you can put all sorts of skeletons on the floor and rubble on the floor. And you made... It was almost like you were making a doll's house almost after a while, because you were making like...
Very creepy doll.
Very creepy doll. Because you had like kitchens, didn't you? And you made bedrooms and things
So I
like
had like a desk and I put some fruit around it and a knife, so it's like a kitchen.
Now, in actual fact, we didn't end up using the tiles you designed, did we?
Yeah.
Because
it was fun though.
It was fun. Because in playtesting we moved on from the dungeon tiles and we've gone to this other system, which I'll talk about in a bit. But still, it was a fantastic process to go through.
It was a really easy.
And honestly, I would really recommend it to anybody who wants to be able to do castles and dungeons and things like that. Nice and cheap, very easy to use. Everything you want in the box. Good program, isn't it?
It's very fun.
It's very fun. So we recommend. We weren't reviewing, but it's turned into a review. So whatever, we give Dungeon Draft
What? No.
2 thumbs up.
We never did that. We haven't done that in like 20 videos.
Well.
Hi everybody,
Hello, we are Ryan and Bethany.
from Bryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
Alright, today we're talking about Fight Your Friends. This is a 2-player dueling card game. As the game goes on, it kind of gets more and more complex. You throw in more and more characters, more and more crew members of you you're going to add on. Their special abilities kind of stack. And it gets more and more complex up to the final battle at the end. Alright, so my question for you guys is out there. Has anybody used fighting as a means for getting healthier? I know a lot of gyms offer, like kickboxing, stuff like that, but I want to know if anybody else has safely been able to do like boxing or jiu-jitsu and be able to have some fun and lose some weight along the way. I'm interested to hear your stories, see if that's something that might be interesting for me.
So Fight Your Friends has really, really, really neat artwork. They have a bunch of different collaborations going on in order to create the game. So all the characters on there are actual real characters pulled from different universes. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, like online webcomics and all that kind of stuff. So pretty cool. The game itself was, this really kind of, distilled down version of a game. Let's say like Magic: The Gathering, a dueling game like that, but really, really distilled down to just bare bones. It almost had like a Top Trumps kind of feel, or like you flip a card over and see who wins kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's very light. This is not a game that I recommend to most gamers.
I do think that there is an audience for this game, though, especially if you like that world or if you like a lot of webcomics and things like that. I think there is a space for this. It just wasn't. It just wasn't for us.
It would be cool to kind of see some people who were into that kind of those worlds be brought into the hobby as a result of playing a game like this, though.
Exactly. If you'd like to hear more from us, you can always find us on Facebook or YouTube. We are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. So everybody, this is Ryan. I'm Bethany. Hoping you have a happy, healthy breakfast.
Bye everybody.
Guys.
All right, so this is the segment where I review something not board gaming related, and sadly not board gaming related, because I feel like there should be more and more games in this universe of games, and there's just not that many, or at least not that many good ones. But we're talking about the DC universe. I'm a huge DC fan. I'm a bigger DC fan than I am a Marvel fan, and I maintain to this day that now that pretty much the MCU as we know it is over, that people are going to be a lot softer on the DC movies than they used to be, where it was like, DC, we hate them. Well, except that Wonder Woman and Shazam and Aquaman, but we hate everything else. Well, except all the Nolan movies. But we hate everything DC, right? Usually they're talking about the 3 Snyder films, but thanks to, again, a couple of timing factors, there is no MCU as we knew it to go up against, and fandom happening, a lot of news coming out of DC Comics movie side of things this past weekend or a couple weekends ago with DC fandom. And this is basically why I bring this up, is not just because I'm a huge DC fan and apologist, which I am, as you all knew, but mostly because I wanted to talk about the conference experience. This was a virtual conference experience that took what would normally be Hall H stuff from San Diego Comic-Con and basically gave it straight to the fans as they were sitting watching these panels. Now, it's interesting because, again, here we are in this moment where we're like, well, I want to get out there, can't do this conference, etc. How can we still get you that content? DC did a fantastic job. They did a really, really good job of getting that information out there, making it exciting, having these virtual sets that the hosts from all around the world were on in kind of the DC universe. The panels themselves were great, and even though they were kind of that Zoom self-shot stuff, it wasn't like the over-the-top, like, look at me, I'm self-shot, you know me, right? It was more like, hey, we're just hanging out together on a Skype call because you're in this state and I'm in this state, as if it was any normal time. It was almost like it took us out of the moment of why we're having to do it like this. And they handled it well, so I wanted to give them a huge plug for that. I'm excited because it also let people from who have never been able to get to San Diego Comic-Con, etc., get a chance to watch some of those big reveals there as we're watching. Plus it had The Rock, plus it always had, it had, you know, John Cena and The Rock in one place, so it's like DC Comics and the WWE all together. Plus, not to mention the big reveal of the Snyder Cut footage. I'm super excited about this. The last time I hosted breakfast, I think I talked about the news of the Snyder Cut actually happening. Well, now we've seen a trailer. Very pumped about this. I'm very excited about the new Suicide Squad. The two games that were announced look pretty great. So if you didn't check out DC's Fandom, make sure to go check out. There's a ton of content out there that you can go and watch of Fandom, where you can see all the wonderful things that were released and talked about and teased, whether that be Wonder Woman. The new Wonder Woman movie looks fantastic. Again, Suicide Squad. Justice League. I feel like there's one more big one I'm missing. Oh, the Batman trailer, the Robert Pattinson Batman. Now, let's address something here. I'm sorry, tangent sidebar. People have been doing the whole, like, people are excited about it. It seems like the general consensus is, man, this is an exciting thing. We want to see the Batman because it's much darker and grittier. It feels a little bit like The Long Halloween, but with Robert Pattinson, which doesn't sound right, but in the preview, he looks like Arkham Asylum Batman, not the comic, but the actual game. He's got that kind of armor on. He's vicious like that. And they do something that has never been done in a Batman movie, show, anything. Batman has eye black around his eyes in his costume to make it where all you see are his eyes, not his eyelids, right? You don't just have eyelids, but you actually see his eyes only, and the rest of his eyes are blacked out. Normally, in a Batman movie, they'll take the cowl off, and all of a sudden, there's no eye black. You just look like you had that on, and magically the cowl had these little flaps. But no. Even in Batman v Superman, they've done this. In the Nolan films, they always had the eye black, and then they stripped it off when it was time to take the mask off. But no. In this one, they very deliberately show him taking the mask off, or the cowl off, and then he's standing there with the eye black around his eyes. And I'm like, this is beautiful. It means that we're getting as realistic and gritty as possible. Plus, the villains seem really amazing. I'm pumped about it. I did not think I was going to be, but I'm pretty excited. So, that's Bryan reviews and looks at DC's Fandom right now. Let's keep going with breakfast.
Hi everyone, it's David again, and today I would like to show you all how to play Hey That's My Fish online through video chat. Once again, you'll need your camera in an overhead view over the game, but this time I can actually go over the rules. In a game, 2 to 4 players are trying to collect as much fish, which are points, as they can. After randomly setting out the tiles in alternating 7 tile rows and 8 tile rows, each player will place one of their colored penguins on a starting tile. This continues until all the required number of penguins are set out. The number of penguins used are based on the number of players. So 2 players use 4 penguins each, 3 players use 3 each, and 4 players will use 2 penguins each. During each turn, a player must move one of their penguins as far as they want in a single direction, except they cannot stop on an occupied tile. They cannot pass another penguin token, and they can't pass or stop on an empty space. And how can there be empty spaces? Because after a penguin lands on their destination tile, the player collects the tile the penguin was previously occupying. The number of fishes on the picked up tile is the number of points you get. If a player can't make a legal move on their turn, then they remove the penguins off the board and collect the tiles that those penguins last occupied. They do not get to take any more turns. The game ends when no one else can move, and the one with the most fishes wins. So that's how you play the game typically, but what changes to play online? Well, you need a grid like the one I have here so that other players can clearly communicate to you where they want you to move. Kind of similar to how do you play blind chess or Go. It also helps to leave some room for each player to put their points, and if possible, it helps indicate the turn order as well. But that's essentially it. Feel free to leave a comment or check out my Twitter at 3pointdice. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Welcome to Survey Says, where we survey you listeners and we discuss the results. We're the Board Game Weekenders. I'm Colby.
And I'm Steven. This week's survey question was, what do you usually do with games you no longer want?
So there's no surprise here for me that selling and trading are the top response here. For me, that's what I do with my games. I sell them or I do a trade. I typically have used Abecorn when I go to a convention to do one of their sponsored trades.
Yeah, unfortunately, those are on hiatus.
Yeah. I am surprised that trash/recycle was answered. I mean, I don't know what game I would
It's gotta go, dude, I guess. I don't know. I guess if a game is that trash, you know. I was happily surprised that a lot of people giving games away. Like, that's a great thing. Like, you've played like a gateway game like Sushi Go, and it's like, I'm just going to give this to my cousin. Like, when you play with them at their house and they really like it, it's cheap. You can replace it easily, or it's just like a nice gesture. So I think that's a good way to get gateway gamers into the hobby even more, you know, to give them some of those older games that you've played a lot.
Like, oh, this would be good for so-and-so, but not necessarily for my group.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, also, you and I talked about this at some point about keeping it for our collection purposes, how we have some games that we don't really play, but it's kind of like you have this attachment to them for whatever reason. You just can't let it go.
Thanks for checking out this week's episode. Let us know your thoughts on the results in the comments below.
Look out for next week's survey on Twitter at BG Weekenders, and make sure to tune in to the next episode of Survey Says.
So this week is a packed week as always here on the Dice Tower. Lots of great reviews coming at you, but we're also continuing. Tom will be continuing his 10,000 and below series. Again, don't sleep on this series. It's pretty awesome. It takes a look at some of those games below 10,000 on Board Game Geek and shows you that there are some amazing hidden gems out there. So make sure to check that out, as well as more What's Happening. This is where Tom will review games that are based on the an app, whether that be iOS, Android, or Steam or something like that. Games that are normal tabletop games that have been converted to a digital format. Make sure to check that out. As well as there's a huge review for Tidal Blade's Heroes of the Reef. Make sure to check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know people have been looking forward to that review, as well as Liz, Graham, and myself will have tons of reviews coming this week. Make sure to check out anything in the past catalog. We've been going and updating a lot of things in the past catalog as far as the back end, so make sure to go check out some of your favorite videos that maybe you've missed, some of the top 10 lists that you have loved, and see how they're still relevant even today, which is fantastic.
Hey there everyone, it's Jen, the board game librarian, flipping some pages and pushing some cubes with my segment From the Page to the Table, where I pair a book and a board game together that share a common theme. One book that I had read years ago you might find enjoyable is Absolution by Murder by Peter Tremaine. It's a Sister Fidelma mystery. This is the first book in the series. In this book, 664, a murder has happened in ancient Ireland, medieval Ireland, and Sister Fidelma and a brother of a monastery are sent forth to find the killer. I love mysteries, especially historical mysteries, that take me to a place in time that I don't necessarily know a lot about. And I learned a lot from this book about nuns and nunneries, abbotesses, and ancient Ireland as well. So my pairing is Inish. This quirky little game for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, 60 minutes by Matago. This game of area control in ancient and medieval Ireland, where we have ruling clans, is just so unusual. It's such an unusual game. This game by Christian Martinez, really deep dives into some Celtic folklore and Celtic myths, and kind of the ferocity of Celtic chieftains too, which were so well known even to scare off the most, hardy Roman soldier. That is all for this week. Happy breakfast.
Hi everyone, it's Clara and I'm back talking about another board game that I haven't played but I really want to try. And I'm going to start by talking about one of my favourite board games, which is 51st State. I adore this engine building game. You play cards, you use them to gain resources, you use those resources to play cards, and at some point you start gaining points. The Masters Edition, which I've got, also has really gorgeous wooden components, although I feel a little bit weird about having cute wooden guns, but that's a different issue. And I just really love this game. I love the puzzle of it. Very similar to this is Imperial Settlers. Imperial Settlers is the same game, but each player has their own deck, their own individual deck, which means that it's slightly asymmetrical, which didn't bother me. I like that as an addition, but I preferred the aesthetics of 51st State. Although when the Atlanteans expansion came out for Imperial Settlers, I got really jealous because there you have to build your engine and get your points and lock them in before your city sinks at the end of the game. So that just makes it a little bit different coming up to the end. However, I'm talking about the spiritual successor to these games, which is Empire of the North. So in a similar sort of way, it's got the same artwork as Imperial Settlers and it's got beautiful wooden components as well, and it's another engine building game. But there's also this area in the center of the board where you can do additional actions. Sometimes with 51st State, I feel like all I can do on a go is gain resources, and sometimes it's a little disappointing. With Empires of the North, I feel like you can always do something. It's just that you've got to have done it in the right order in order to do it right and to do it well. So I feel like there's more stuff that you can do as long as you go about it right, and I love that puzzle aspect. There is also additional things that you can do, like go sailing, and also the solo play has these scenarios, and I always like it when they add something different for solo players. These scenarios just sound really interesting. So yeah, I think I'd love this game if I'm honest, but I'm curious what you think in the comments down below. Until next time, bye!
G'day, I'm Captain Ameriitrash, and today, before I start, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Dice Tower Facebook page, which if you haven't checked out, you should definitely follow the link here. Check it out because it's full of great people who just love to talk about board games, and it's really well moderated. You can be part of polls, like the most recent one I put on there for which Ameriitrash game we should feature next in a video, and they chose The Other's 7 Sins. And I'm stoked they did, and here's why I'm stoked they did. Keep in mind, this is my copy that I've painted and done up, so it's not going to come like this, but here's what it could be, and here's why you should play it. It's a great intro to Ameriitrash genre, with streamlined, simple rules and mechanics. It gives you great tactical gameplay and stand-up moments every time you play. It's got an amazing level of replayability and expandability with a ton of extra content available to customize your Sins, Acolytes, and Faith team. The gameplay for the Faith team members is really puzzly, really cool as they work together to try and solve the mission at hand. For the Sins player, however, it's a really cool introduction to the mechanics of negotiation and manipulation outside of the actual physical game, where you can try to manipulate players to say, you might need to take some corruption there. However, the one thing I will say is, if you're a Eurogamer and you're afraid of luck, I'm afraid this game has it in spades, so maybe this isn't for you, but for everyone else, new players and already Ameriitrash lovers, this game is one you must put in your collection, if I haven't convinced you already. Until next time, folks, remember, one man's Ameriitrash is another man's Ameriitreasure. See you next time.
Welcome to the Bryan Thinks section. Today, though, is Karla Thinks, because we're taking a look at some games that Karla wanted to talk about, and I want to talk about games to play with non-gamers.
Because when people come to our house that don't play games, we're like, what are we supposed to talk about? I mean, what do people do at a normal social setting?
That's a good question. I mean, I suppose we're not normal people. We know this, but we do have a lot of circles of people who we invite over and have to the house who aren't all gamers, and so we need that icebreaker sometimes because we're like, I don't know what to talk about with these people. Are they sports people? Or are they? But you know what? Let's break the ice.
But we're not, so it's like, what do we talk about?
Yeah. So That's why this list has come up with. So Karla has 5 games, I have 5 games. It is games to play with non-gamers. You say, Bryan, doesn't that sound a lot like intro games, like Ticket to Rides and stuff like that? No, au contraire. Some of those might cross over on this list.
Because my first one does. I was literally going to say Ticket to Ride because my mom can play it.
Exactly, that's the point. It's not necessarily first step. You play this game with people that enjoy it and have a good time, and they may never play a game again. That's kind of where the vein we're thinking. Either first step games or games with people who are like, oh, that was cool. I'm never going to play a game again, but I enjoyed it. So,
you have one?
I have one right now.
Oh, you wrote them down.
I did write them down on a note card, like Johnny Carson style right here. Johnny Carson. That's right.
He did magic.
He did. Number one for me is actually not what most people would consider an intro game. It's Sagrada. Sagrada is, to me, a fantastic, because here's why. It's got the Yahtzee appeal.
And I'm going to refer to my mom a lot because she's my non-gamer. I get to play games, and she likes it. So.
Loves it. So, Sagrada is one of our favorite games, period. Also,
I wouldn't throw in any of the modules. I would just do base game.
Just base game. It's beautiful, looks good on the table. So that's my first one on here. What do you have?
I've noticed that people really enjoy party games.
That's true.
People who don't play games and people who play games.
It's kind of that thing that people raise with. Oh yeah, I played categories growing up.
Got code names behind this, but I was thinking more like Just One has been popular with a group.
Oh no way! That's my second one on the list.
It's probably because, well, back when we played party games in person.
It is like you talking about like old school or no? Oh like, yeah. Oh yeah, before this stuff. But yeah. So Just One is one of my favorite games of all time in general, but it's my favorite party game. But it also works because it fills that niche where people who are like, yeah, I've played categories, or yeah, I've played gestures when
gestures.
So, gestures. I gestured about gesturing. Anyway, so that was 2 of mine from my list. What's another one from her list? And she didn't actually write that down. She just brought it up. We found out.
It came into my head at the moment.
Popped in, Just One. So your first real one is?
I said Ticket to Ride.
No, you said you were going to.
It's not like we're keeping score where you have 2 and I have 1.
Okay, that's true. But Ticket to Ride's a good one. Give us another one of yours then.
If you're talking party games, we've noticed that a lot of people like geek culture, so we do Geek Out.
Geek Out's a good one. Disney Geek Out's great if you're around Disney people.
And if people don't like geek culture or board games, we're just kind of lost.
Yeah, at that
or magic.
At that point, it's really hard. I don't know at that point.
I mean, we manage, but...
Yeah, we talk about cooking sometimes, which brings us to this next game. No, I'm kidding. I don't have a game about cooking.
Say, which game is this?
I do think Codenames is a good game, too.
Century Spice Road. That's kind of about cooking, which we tried it with this couple who had never played games before in their life, and that was a big mistake.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was hard.
Because we're like, oh, this is so easy, blah, 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 blah.
It wasn't. There are a few things that you don't even know that you take for granted as far as games go and upgrades and things that you go, oh yeah, just upgrade. What does upgrade mean when it comes to games? What does that even mean? So, yeah, good point actually. Geek Out's on mine. Codenames, Just One, Sagrada. I have those. Mention a couple. Yeah, you got Century Spice Road.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
And the only other one I thought was, besides like Catan, I know you were going to correct me and say Catan.
It's Catan.
But I've just always said Catan.
I have too.
My mom won't play that one, but I'm sure some other non-gamers would.
Yeah, that's one. And that has kind of the whole Parks and Rec appeal too.
And then Splendor seems to be one people like because they can count chips.
Yeah, poker chips are just tangible. People get that. So I have a tie for 3 games that I highly recommend you getting to people who don't play a lot of games, and they are Draftosaurus, Point Salad, and Harvest Dice. Those 3 games all have a great appeal.
It just so happens you just did a video on this, right?
It so happens I did a video comparing and contrasting these 3 games. They're excellent. They have all 3 different ones have very intro level mechanics that if you are trying to get people to play deeper games, these introduce a lot of them, drafting especially, but also people who don't like games. My parents, they don't play a lot of games, but they love Point Salad.
They play like Rummy.
Yeah, they play like Rummy. They love like Bonanza is another game they love. So
they do like that one.
That's a good one as well, because in any game with a card with a number on it that you can tolerate, I don't tolerate a lot of those, is good for this sort of thing. So I highly recommend those 3 games. Check out that video comparing and contrasting them. So, but that is the whole point. Let us know in the comments below what you like to do to play with non-gamers. Now, whether this be people you're trying to convert into the fold of gaming, come check out these watches.
Not that creepy, but it does happen.
I'm pretty sure people describe me as that creepy. Sometimes, hey, Ooh, check out these games that I got right here. Look at +1 or just one. I don't even know the name of the game. It's just one.
If you tell somebody to get in the van by saying just be a +1, they're not going to do that.
It's probably a bad idea. Bad life lessons today. So let us know in the comments below what your favorite games are to get people into gaming, or
without being a creeper.
Sorry, I can't help it apparently. It's the way I am. But let us know in the comments below. No, it's not, obviously. We've been married for 13 years.
That doesn't mean you're not creepy.
That's right, baby.
No.
See?
No,
Creepy.
No.
I can just instantly turn on the creep. I don't know that you would want to do that, but anyway, thanks for watching. Let's continue on with breakfast.
Happy breakfast, everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about Minecraft builders and biomes. So yes, it's very much named after and themed around the video game that really exploded sort of about 10 years ago now. Now, not everything has been captured in the board game, but you will be mining from a big block. You'll get cubes of coal, stone, even obsidian to build with. You'll trade those in for tiles that you can build up on a personal player board, and you're going to get those tiles by exploring an overworld, a grid that's also going to have mobs on it to kill. You can get points, experience points, either from the building, doing certain sets of building, or by killing mobs, and that's going to give you points and things like that. So that aspect really does work of capturing Minecraft. It captures the overworld, the roaming around, and to some extent the building and the mining. It doesn't capture my personal favourite bit of Minecraft, which is the creativity, the actual building something unique. I wish there was a way that once you'd built something, you could add to it with flare items and stuff like that. Because that's the angle of Minecraft that I like, the actual creative side. But it does do quite a good job of being a family weight game that kind of it captures the theme. It's good, but not great, and I think that's why it probably will leave my collection after a few more plays. But for a family audience, it might just tick every box that you want. Not only entertaining yourself with a sort of a light game, but also getting any Minecraft fan at least interested in playing. That's Minecraft Builders and Biomes, and I'm Oliver East signing out.
Randy and Ellen, we game together.
Can we play now?
Yes.
Hi guys, I am Randy.
And Ellen, we are We Game Together.
And today we're continuing the series of the first games that we bought in our gaming career hobby, or gaming hobby career, if you will. And we're going to give you a two-parter today. We're going to talk about No Thanks that we bought on 5/20/2015, and Hey, That's My Fish on 5/27/15.
Yes, I feel like No Thanks is, I never see it. I never see it talked about.
It's an older game.
It's an older, yeah, I guess that's
So I think just a lot of people aren't picking up some of the older classics.
Yeah.
And I would call No Thanks definitely a classic. It's been reprinted a few times.
I love this game. I remember specifically being so excited to play this game. And didn't they actually make like reprint it pretty recently with bigger cards?
Yeah, they've reprinted it with bigger cards. It's gone through a couple different variations. I can't tell you all of them, but it's been reprinted a few times.
I think it's an awesome party game.
Yeah, I mean, it only goes up to 5, right? Although the new version, I think, goes to 7. Although you can play the old version, too, because it's just less chips.
I liked it straight up from the beginning. I don't remember the first time we played it, really. But I remember looking back and always being like, that was super duper fun. And we actually just played it in line going on the cruise.
Yeah, last year.
Back in January. I think Crystal Pisano had it.
Yeah, Crystal had it in her quiver.
She pulled it out. We played on the ground. It was amazing.
That was perfect. We've played that one off and on quite a few times. We'll pull it out every X number of months, and then we'll play it a bunch of times, and then it kind of goes back on the shelf. We'll bring it back out.
It's the perfect, hey, I'll be there. I'll be at your house in 10-15 minutes. Just tell everybody to play something while you wait. Yeah. Love it.
We also purchased, like I said, Hey, That's My Fish. So that was kind of more, again, a kid's game. I always wanted to get our kids more into the hobby.
Yes, you did and do.
The biggest problem with Hey, That's My Fish is the setup of those hexagonal tiles. That's the biggest thing.
Obnoxious.
But it's fun. You move from one spot to another, and you're essentially trying to close people off away from the rest of the group, because then they're out, and you're trying to collect fish as you go along. Once you grab the fish, you pick them off, and then it kind of creates these islands. Great game. There's a game called, I want to say it's Battle Sheep or something to do with sheep. That's kind of more of an updated version, and I think it's easier to set up. You have to fact check me on that one, but that's probably the one I would lean towards if you're going to go for something new. Great little kids family game.
Speaking of this game, I just found a little hex like somewhere
I know,
down here.
I just
saw that. Where was it?
Well, it was on the floor somewhere. Yeah.
Oops.
Just randomly showed up. But we started really purchasing quite a few games, or I should say I started purchasing
I
quite
was
a few
not
games.
doing this with
Really
you.
trying to pinpoint which games Ellen was like. And we'll get to more of that in future episodes.
We sure will.
All right, guys. Thanks again for following us. And we'll see you on the next one.
Hi, everybody. I'm Doug Jr.
And I'm Doug the Third.
And you're watching a Fellowship of Meeples with Doug and Doug Gaming. Well, today we're going to talk about another game mechanic called tile laying, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like.
And to introduce this concept, we are going to recommend a great game called King Domino. It's designed by Bruno Cathala and it's published by Blue Orange Games.
Now, King Domino is a great game to introduce to your gaming group because it's very easy to learn, it's very easy to teach, and it's very quick to play in about 15 minutes a game.
Each player will build a kingdom comprised of a 5x5 grid containing different terrains like forests, lakes, and fields.
The tiles are placed face up on the table 4 at a time in ascending order. You choose your tile by placing your king. The player that chose the lowest numbered tile will take his tile, place it in his kingdom, and then choose his next tile by placing his king again.
The tiles with the higher numbers tend to be those that have the potential to score more points. Once all the tiles have been chosen in place, the game ends and the scoring begins.
Each player will count the number of connected terrains in his kingdom. For example, this lake terrain has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. This lake tile is not connected to that terrain group, so it will be its own terrain group containing only 1 square.
Next, you'll multiply the number of squares in each terrain group by the number of crowns in that group. This lake group has 5 squares containing 4 crowns. So 5 times 4 is 20. So this group is worth 20 points.
Your entire kingdom is scored in this way, and the highest score wins.
And then you can just shuffle all the tiles back together and play again.
That's right, because it is a very short game. Hey, do you have a tile laying game that you like to play? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear about it.
Well, thanks for watching a Fellowship of Meeples, and you have a great day.
That wraps up another fantastic episode of Board Game Breakfast. Hope you enjoyed all the amazing content creators and segments that were on today's episode. Board Game Breakfast, I'll say it again, best variety show out there when it comes to board games. So, hopefully you enjoyed all the content. Hopefully you enjoyed all the different contributors. Make sure to follow everybody on Twitter, Instagram, etc. I'm Dice Tower Bryan, and make sure to follow all the Dice Towers specific channels and places and things to get involved in. And also, thank you to Pandasaurus again for sponsoring this with Tammany Hall. Make sure to get in on the contest to win your copy of Tammany Hall. Fantastic area control game, by the way. Really gripping, good looking, and just fun to play. So, I'm Bryan Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. No, that's how I normally end my reviews. Sorry, I totally lost track. Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vassell and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production.